currently studying from Thailand online. I am a fourth-year student now, so I'm finishing off my degree. I am doing a double major in psychology and Spanish. Yep. Irvi?
Hi, so I accidentally muted myself there. I'm Urvi. I am a third-year student. I am doing an honors specialization in psychology and a major in history. I am in London because I decided to do that. Malaika.
Hi, I'm Malaika. I'm in my second year at Huron, and I'm doing an honors specialization in psychology as well with a certification in digital communications. And yeah, I'm an international student and I'm currently in Mumbai.
Great. So I have a lot of things I'm doing here. So I'm looking at the Q&A. There's no Q&A. So if students have, those of you who are watching, have some questions that sort of pop up through the discussion, feel free to just pop that into the Q&A and I will relay that to the student panel here. Maybe what would be helpful, I just sort of maybe throw out kind of a question, which is to ask the panel sort of maybe some of the things that you're currently doing in your courses and stuff like that at Huron in Psych. Anyone who wants to go? Should I call it?
I think we have some questions.
There's questions coming up.
Q&A.
Okay. Yeah, so here's a couple questions. Sorry, I'm very bad at monitoring a Q&A. So a couple questions coming in. So how is the research program at Huron? I'm assuming, I guess maybe, I'm assuming this means from a student perspective. What are your thoughts on the research going on at Huron in psychology? Maybe I'll ask Irvi because I know that she's been very involved in some of these things.
Okay, super. I think from a student perspective, there's a lot of sort of research opportunities in the psychology program. I think a lot of it is scaffolded into the program. So from your very first year, you get a sense of sort of what experiments look like, what other kinds of research look like. You kind of help design some things that you do as a class. And in your upper years, you get to sort of when you sort of start talking about sort of subdisciplines within psychology, you get to do research projects in groups. It's really, it gives you an opportunity to sort of look at what research looks like in psychology as an independent person, as well as within a group, and sort of how to collaborate and that sort of thing. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know what else you'd want me to touch on other than it is quite unique in what we get to do.
Great. Well, maybe
very awkward.
Yeah, so Malaika had a couple things that she wanted to sort of jump in with earlier.
Oh yeah, I was just going to mention, like, that's one of the most unique things about Huron, which is I feel like they actually let you immerse in the research, like we said, from your very first year. And I'm in my second year and I'm conducting like research in almost every one of my psychology courses that I'm taking. And I mean, that's a really unique opportunity. And like Kirby said, like you get the chance to work as a group conducting research as well as individually conducting research. And something else which I find interesting is like they let you research about what you're interested in. So if you're taking like a cognitive psychology class, like they'll let you explore a topic that interests you rather than giving the whole class a topic. So yeah, like the research program at Huron is great and unique to say the least.
Great. A couple other questions sort of popping up now. Maybe I'm going to go to Sonal Gupta's because I think it relates a little bit to what we've been talking about. And then I'm going to come back to some of the questions about what you guys are doing and sort of specific things in your individual experiences that are the other open questions right now. So let's just talk a little bit about first year and research, actually. Maybe Karina, you wanna jump in on this. So the question is, how are the psychology labs at Huron and what kinds of experiments do you conduct there?
Well, I do remember in my first year, it can be quite daunting at first when you're just coming out of high school and then going into sort of like a psychology lab environment. But in first year, we did have tutorials which really kind of slowly got you into the process of what it's like with the guidance of your professor. So it's kind of like that ease into how you conduct an experiment, what you need, the variables, all that sort of detail ethics. And then in second year, you start to explore it more, depending on the area. So we've got developmental psychology, social psychology, cognitive psychology. So in each area, you will be conducting something based, again, like my colleague said, based on your interest in that specific field with the guidance of your professors, which was really, really helpful for me because I thought it was at first I thought it was like, oh, it's really difficult. How am I going to do it by myself? But now that I'm in my fourth year, I feel like I could easily, well, I could conduct an experiment and then write up a report on it really well. And then my professors would just be there to support me as well.
Great. Malika, maybe you're in second year, so I'm just wondering sort of your thoughts on thinking back to first year. You're the closest perhaps of the three of you.
Yeah, no. So actually, I did the IB program before coming into university where I had done psychology. So I had a certain amount of experience with conducting lab research. But like Karina said, they really take you through step by step. And like the first lab report that you write, you'll have an instructor who is very approachable. They're like, willing to answer any questions that you may have. And they literally guide you step by step as to how to get into the whole process. So it's not like they're just going to leave you out there to figure out how to write a lab report. There's always great amount of support, and you get to participate in many other people's studies as well in your first year. So you get to like figure out like, okay, this is what I'm eventually going to be able to pull off on my own, which is something that is like motivational, like, from a first year point of view. So yeah, that's how I enjoyed my lab periods during first year.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to sort of switch gears just a little bit and move into some of the questions that are maybe about your specific personal experiences as you've kind of been going through the program at each of your unique kind of perspectives. So question from Riva, what are each of you planning to pursue further? So what are, maybe I'll ask that of Urvi and Karina, because you're kind of a little bit closer, and then get a longer view on that from Malika in a minute. So Urvi, what are you thinking about pursuing further?
I feel very old, but I think I want to sort of continue studying. So I guess a master's would be next, is what I'm thinking about, sort of master's in a psychology experimental program, and rolling with that. I'm not sure if that's an answer, but that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Karina, you're graduating. What are you thinking?
Yes, graduating class. I'm older than you, Urvi. But yeah, it was a really tough question that was coming on, especially in my third year. I was really I was thinking about it a lot. But now that I'm actually in my fourth year, I actually decided to take some time off, take a gap year before thinking about going into grad school and really exploring whether or not I want to go into psychology and maybe strengthen up my research skills a little bit before I get into grad school. And it can be stressful, but you just have to kind of work through it step by step as you're going through the years, sort of. And you kind of figure it out in the end. Yeah, that's what I plan to do.
Great. Malika, what are you thinking about for your future? You're only in second year. You've got lots of time, actually.
Yeah, to be very honest, I'm not 100% sure, but for me, I'm more interested in like clinical psychology and like therapy and that whole field rather than getting into like research in psychology. So that's what I'm currently aiming to do, but let's see how it goes in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, you guys actually should each have a conversation with your various professors. Actually, I spend a lot of time talking to students, but this particular question, what do you do in the future with a psych degree? we have a pretty good record actually in the program for both clinical and graduate school, generally, mostly because of the research piece, I think. So you guys have lots to talk about in your letters of admission and that kind of thing. So I was actually just on Friday, I received 2 messages from students who have gotten into grad school. So one is going into some clinical program, and another one is going off to an experimental program up in Ottawa. So that's super exciting. I was actually just catching up with a couple others, one for various other reasons, but one who is now in med school, and so that's kind of cool. And another one who is just finishing up her master's in communication sciences, audiology, and speech pathology. So you kind of get for those of you students who are watching, there's a huge sort of variety of career options in psychology. Graduate school in psych is just one of many possibilities. So anyway, I'm gonna sort of come back into the Q&A a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about internships in psychology. I think they really mean, because we have internships, but not nested inside of academic programs mostly. And psychology, we don't call them internships, but we do have a number of paid opportunities, I think is kind of what's going on. So let me ask kind of the panel, what kinds of things have you done in terms of experiences that augment your curricular courses and that kind of stuff? So what kinds of experiences have you had outside of your classes that have kind of contributed to some of your learning? Who wants to go?
I'll go.
Okay.
So I think the biggest thing that I have been able to do, which I had a lot of fun doing, was a research fellowship with the Center for Undergraduate Research Learning. For those of you that know so GIRL, or the center, offers sort of these fellowships that you can take over the summer or the school year in addition to your coursework, and really do independent research. And so I applied to one of those, thankfully got them, got it, and sort of rolled with my own research in it. And it sort of, it paired really well with sort of my psychology degree, but also my history degree, in that I was able to combine both of them and sort of do this history of psychology project and get a little bit of money out of it, which was fun. So yeah, I mean, that would be my most sort of prominent experience.
Yeah, what about Malika or Karina? What kinds of experiences have you had outside of your coursework? Maybe Malika, you're sort of a bit early, but Karina, what kinds of things have you been working on?
Well, I'm not quite sure, Dr. Tsang, if we still had it, but back in my first year, we did the mentorship program with Dr. Chung as well. Yeah, right. And I found that to be I'm really glad that I actually applied to be in that mentorship program, because me in my first year, I was a little bit confused. I was new. I was like a fresh university student. And I was paired with a 4th year student or a 3rd year student. And that helped me even more with understanding really even outside of the tutorials where you kind of learn step by step, but this was more practical. This was more application wise, where you conducted it under your mentor, the 4th year student, and then you actually had to present it and you had to interpret your results and everything. And I found that was really, really helpful for me in my first year to actually talk about things and understand what I'm talking about and present it to an audience, which was you, Dr. Tsang and Dr. Chung. Yeah, so that really contributed and really helped me. And I think it's really interesting as well how, even though you don't really realize it, but the way some classes, like I took a 3rd year class, which was in persuasion psychology, and it kind of integrated into the curl what Irvi was talking about, and we actually had to present that. So there's some that sort of like practical application from class into that sort of setting, yeah, that was
Yeah,
my
the mentorship program is actually still going on. So yeah, as a fourth year student, actually, students can apply to become mentors. So first year students, and we're kind of getting to a point where we're going into getting students who were mentored who are now becoming mentors. So that's actually kind of a really interesting piece. And I do remember, Karina, you being a very shy first year student. So that was kind of nice to see you come out of your shell a bit. Malika, do you have any comments sort of around sort of experiences that you've been doing extracurricularly beyond your courses?
So I mean, summer internship wise, I feel like, so I'm only in my second year, so I've only had like one summer to actually do an internship, and I chose to work with like a whole CSR NGO field, and I feel like psychology plays like a big role there as well, like social psychology and different aspects of psychology. And so yeah, I might not have done like a direct internship with like therapy or like research, but I feel like even interning in different aspects where psychology comes in really helps you get a broader picture of like how applicable psychology is like almost everywhere or anywhere that you choose to actually work. So that's what I've done so far, and I'm currently looking for internships in my second year summer as well. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, psych is really interesting because psychology is about people and how people work together and how people, what people are thinking, and how we interact with one another. And so, yeah, if you want to work with people, which is probably most of us, probably needs a little bit of psych. I'm gonna sort of move into a couple other questions here. And let's talk about, there's a couple questions here around sort of curriculum and the kinds of things that you're, specific courses that you're doing. So I'll kind of answer the question about how is the curriculum, and maybe sort of questions around your classes and questions about sort of the math requirement that everybody dreads. So I'm going to lump a number of those questions kind of together in this. So let's talk a little bit about your specific course experience and the kinds of course progression that you've had in the program. So who wants to kind of open that up? I feel a little bit awkward because I have a bit of a hand in setting the program up, but anyway, Malika.
Yeah. So, so I think in first year, anyone who's interested in psychology would take like the introductory psychology class, which is compulsory. And then moving on to second year, and if you're planning to do like an honor specialization, I think someone's asked as well, with the whole math component. Personally, I am someone who extremely like was very fearful of math before I got into university, and I was dreading taking the math component. But to be honest, it really wasn't that bad. Like you'll get through it. University math is not like extremely hard. This is my personal experience. I could understand if other people do find math hard, but you'll get through it. And what I realized about the math in psychology is it's not like pure math. You're more working with like statistics. You're more working with like the application of certain math functions rather than like pure math. So don't be worried about the whole math component. You'll get through it, and it's not that hard. Talking about my classes, so actually this year I had a majority of psych classes. So we take 5 credits per year and had 3.5 of my credits were psychology. So I've taken classes spanning from research methods in psychology. I've taken cognitive psychology. I've taken classes such as sensation and perception in psychology. Kind of forgetting the other class. Oh, I've taken statistics in psychology, computer statistics in psychology. So yeah, it's just like a huge broad range of psychology courses that you can take. And with the honors program, you do require to take 9 whole credits across your 4 years. So it's personally up to you how you'd like to spread it out, how many courses you want to take in each year. But I felt that initially when I chose so many psychology courses, I was like, okay, maybe this is an overload and I'm going to get bored of it. But to be honest, it was really interesting because each course touches upon something so different. So it's not like you're overlapping. It's almost like you're taking 2 separate subjects altogether. So personally, that was my experience. And going forward, now I'm going to choose like different courses to explore what I really enjoy and want to get into.
Yeah, second year is a bit of a kind of a set of foundational set of courses that you take after your first year. So there's a lot of required courses that you are that are listed and that you are supposed to take. But certainly by the time you get to the upper years, that is maybe less the case. So Karina and Irvi, maybe you have some thoughts actually on that. Karina.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit more freedom into what you want to go into because second year, as you said, it's all those sort of base required courses. And I mean, for my last so third year and fourth year, I've taken some upper year courses that were more in a sort of seminar format, like persuasion psychology and relationship psychology, where we discuss about papers, methods, that sort of thing, which was really, really interesting to me. And then you've got all sorts of sort of like biopsychology, and then really getting into neuropsychology. We have those kind of classes in Huron as well. Yeah, so I think Malaika, you explained it really, really well, but for me, I'm just adding that I really like the sort of freedom that I have now in my third and fourth year. Yeah.
Yeah. Irvi, do you feel the same way? I mean, third and fourth year really opens up actually a series of really specialty sorts of courses that you really need a second year foundation set to pick up. So Malaika, you're actually coming into this in the coming year. Irvi, some thoughts?
Yeah, I think everybody's said all the right things. The second year really gives you a foundation, gives you sort of a general knowledge of sort of the things that you might be interested in. You can continue to sort of build on that general knowledge over your third and fourth year as well. But you can go into a little bit more specialized things, a little bit more open. The classes are also smaller, so you get to talk about the things that you like. So. Malaika said she was interested in therapy. One of the classes that I'm taking is about sort of behavior modification therapy, and we come together and get to do some of that, which is super fun. Or there's a class on music cognition that I'm taking, which is this really small area of cognition, which is super fun to sort of think about with all that I've been able to learn over first and second year, and really bring it in this very small sort of setting. Karina's right. There's a lot of choice, and you kind of pick up on things that you got interested in or that seemed interesting, and then you can take classes based on that.
Yeah, I think, third year is kind of third and fourth year, the senior years of the program. There are a lot of half course, as the students have already been talking about, sort of specialty, area subfields within the larger field of psychology. In sub courses. So you might be taking cognition in your second year, and then you'll be specializing a little bit into music cognition, for example, or aging. If you're interested in biopsych, then you start taking neuropsychology and sort of the more abnormal pieces around there. Maybe we can talk a little bit about how do you guys prep for your courses? There's a lot of stuff going on in the program, and so maybe that will get at sort of the question that's at the top here of the Q&A, which is like, what kind of routine do you follow? How do you set up? And all of you have been pretty successful actually in the program, which is coming out of first year, a really, I think, as Karina pointed out, maybe somewhat of a daunting kind of course. We like to call it rigorous on the faculty side, but there is a lot of things, and as Malaika pointed out, actually, all the second year level courses have really major research and writing component, and so that can be really, I think, difficult to balance sort of all the bits and pieces. So I guess I'm wondering, how do you guys do that? What are some of the strategies that you've used, and you know, as students who have really kind of successfully kind of moved through each of your years so far? Malaika, maybe from the first year perspective into second year, how are you finding things?
So I didn't find it that hard, but like you said, it's hard to juggle when you are taking so many courses and you have so many components. Like you have a lab component in each of the courses that you take. And personally for me, as silly or as trivial as it sounds, I just set out everything very clearly before I get started on my work. And so I segregate all my courses, so I'm not like overlapping, or I'm not like forgetting any of the course components to complete. And I feel like the fact that there is an overlap is also extremely helpful, because you may learn something in one course and then you're almost relearning it, or you're going more into further detail in another course. And so I feel like there's a certain amount of overlap, which is really helpful because it reinforces the important aspects of the whole course. But as a whole, I personally didn't find it as difficult to adjust and like incorporate all the different components. I don't know about like Karina and Urvi, if y'all would like to add any points to that.
Yeah, Irvi, Karina, what are you thinking about sort of, I mean, you guys are now into the senior years of the program. How's the transition been from sort of first year where you've got a lot of stuff going on and into these more open kinds of courses, but also actually kind of have a lot of stuff going on in them. So how do you balance that? Some of you are taking sort of 2 or 3 psych courses at the same time with other courses.
I will say again, sorry, Karina, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, for me, I feel like the difference was, again, with the seminar type, sort of those small classes, that was a bit different because it was a lot more sort of, you have to talk about it. You have to know you have to read the studies beforehand, that sort of thing, understand the results, and then talk about it with your knowledge, what you've learned about, in taking knowledge from your past classes and then actually applying it in those sort of courses, which actually I was really, really nervous at first. I didn't think I would be able to do it and actually conduct like a facilitation where you encourage that sort of discussion around the topic that you're talking about. But even as a shy person, I managed to still be able to do it, and I thought it was really interesting, and I'm actually really glad that I was able to do it. Yeah, go ahead, Irvi.
I was just gonna say it builds off each year builds on the last one. So I mean, your first year is really a peek into how to write lab reports, what experiments look like, sort of trying to figure out if you can make sense of it, and then sort of in your second year, you try to do parts of it yourself. You're doing it in a group, that sort of situation. By the third and fourth year, it kind of, I mean, to me, it sort of almost seems like second nature, because it is a little bit more maybe, and it's a little bit more talking about it, like Karina said, because there's more seminars and things. But I think your first and second year really give you enough of a foundation for you to not be intimidated by the third and fourth year level requirements, and sort of time management becomes okay. I think that wasn't helpful, but that's what I say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way the program is really set up is really, I think, exactly as you guys have pointed out, that there's a sort of a lot of pieces that we help to scaffold in at the very early part, get you grounded in some of the courses and in the way that psychologists sort of do their work. But by the time you get into the senior years, we sort of consider you to have quite a lot of experience in having done that, and we give you a bit more rein to explore these ideas and explore your own sort of questions inside of psychology, and try to direct your interests a little bit inside of how psychologists actually do their work. But maybe kind of I'll get actually at another question that's sort of related to what we're talking about right now, which is around sort of observation research. And I think maybe the question is perhaps more about how do you do that as students? How do you do research, and what does a research project look like from a student perspective inside of a course, for example, or even like Kirby's talking about inside of like a curl project that might be extracurricular. So how do you know how to do that? I mean, I could see how that might seem like it's sort of crazy that we're letting students in undergraduate kind of like do their own studies. So what does that look like from your side of things? And maybe Malika, you're doing this in second year. So what does that look like?
Sure. So like I said earlier, even though it's in your first year, they're going to guide you through it. Even in your second year, when I'm conducting research, what I feel is really helpful, they break down the research into parts and spread it across the whole course. So it's not like they will tell you at the end of the course, produce a paper on this topic. We start right from the beginning of the course with small parts of the research paper and go ahead. So getting a bit more specific how we conduct the research, we for example, if it's like a survey research, the whole class will pool in, we'll create a survey. We get participants, we recruit participants to participate in our research, and then we analyze the data. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but yeah, that's just the progression we follow to complete our research. And I feel like the professors are always there to help, so it's not daunting in a way. Like, what am I supposed to do next? You can always reach out to your professor if you're confused or you don't know what's happening. That's something that's really helpful personally for me when I'm conducting research. And yeah, I really like the fact that they break it up, and like they will explain every part of the thing before they expect you to do it. So then I'm going to just leave it to you, saying conduct this. They will tell you this is what you have to do, this is how you go about it, and then we go about conducting the research. I hope that was kind of helpful. If any of you have any points to add in.
Yeah, Karina, Urvi, what are your thoughts? Each of you have actually probably done quite a number. So by the time, actually this will get at some of the questions around honor specialization and what it looks like actually as the program unfolds. If you're in the honor specialization program, after first year, you will be required to do 7 more independent research projects probably by the time you graduate. So culminating in one year-long one at the end in your thesis year in the 4th year. If you're in the major program, actually you're doing 6 during the entirety of the program. So I mean, even the major program, which is really meant for breadth, is still getting at actually quite a lot of research pieces. So what are your what kinds of things have you thought about sort of in that, and what does it look like in terms of having to balance or even come up with actually a research question? I think some students find that hard.
Coming up with a research question. Well, again, your professors, their office hours are always open, their emails are always open, so you can discuss actually building on that research question. It seems really broad at first, like there's so much to choose from, but you kind of start with one and then you slowly just kind of narrow into it. You see some ideas, you look at some topics that you might like, and then you slowly almost dissect it to see what you really want to be looking for. And again, tutorials that you've had in your first year, the guidance that you've had, you kind of know what parts you want to look for in a research question, and then you can then bring it up to your professor. So yeah, it's once you kind of know the base of it, it's very step by step, and it's actually, once you get to know it, it's I don't want to say it's like too easy, but like it becomes quite automatic, I guess. The step-by-step process is there in your head to actually reach to the results.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Urvi, you and I actually have had a number of conversations around this, mostly because you're thinking about a thesis and you're actually currently also in Scholars Electives program. And so that's a major research piece. So we've had lots of discussions actually about sort of research topics, and your problem actually tends to be more narrowing it down. So what are your thoughts actually on sort of the research piece and what that looks like inside of your program?
I think it's taught. I mean, we go through what sort of like everybody takes in their second year sort of stats course, which is more like a research design and methods course. So you know what you're getting into, you know how, so it's really, okay, you have a research question. How do you go about testing it? And then what do you do with all this data that you have collected? I think Karina talked about the sort of research question being, and I admittedly struggle with this, but I think within each of your courses, when you do, so if you're doing a research project in developmental psychology or in social psychology or whatever it is, it's within that realm. So there's a little bit of narrowing there for you. And then you sort of, and it's all in conjunction with lectures and classes and sort of all the papers that you read. And so you kind of, I think within the classes, pick up on these things, right? Pick up on the things that you find interesting and want to look further into. And I think going through that process again, time and again, looking at different questions and being able to do different kinds of sort of analyses and going through second and third year, you're really well set up to do your own work. By fourth year, by the thesis, you've taken enough classes to know what your interests are. Perhaps you sort of know how you would want to go about it. So what kind of, I mean, people have preferences for methods and stuff too, right? So you kind of go around choosing what it is that suits you and what you might be interested in doing for an entire year. So I guess my like long-winded answer to that is they teach you teach us, so we're good.
Yeah, I think certainly in the first year, it seems kind of crazy that we're asking you to do that. I know a lot of students, just the questions that we get are often kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing now. Like how do I do that? And I think one of the things that we really try to do is try to sort of direct the students in terms of really thinking about specific literature, for example. So we won't come up with the question for you, but help to point you into an area that might kind of set that up. And by the time you certainly get into your fourth year, I think students have a pretty good idea, I think, of what I wouldn't say necessarily what they want to do, but kind of what they don't want to do. It's because you guys, yeah, I think as Uri points out, you know what methods you like, and you know what methods you don't like, you know what things you like to read and things you don't like to read. I think that helps by the time you're in your senior years. Maybe let's talk a little bit about maybe some of your choices. So one of the questions is, are you happy with your choice? And I guess I hope you are. It's a little bit of a loaded question, but maybe let's talk about choices perhaps inside of the program. So the kinds of choices that are available inside of the Psych program in terms of courses and opportunities and things like that. And then maybe the broader choice about, you know, why did you choose Huron? You presumably had many other options. And so what about the Huron context was attractive to you and continues to be something that you find to be useful for your future career paths and goals? Who wants to have a go? That was a kind of a big question. You can unpack it.
I mean, sure. Yeah. So starting as a whole, I would say I chose Huron. So I applied basically to a bunch of Canadian colleges. I don't know, coming from India, like we're conditioned to apply to a large amount of colleges before we actually pick one. And I feel like I picked Huron specifically. And I feel like this is something that resonates with a lot of Huron students, is because of the class size. We have relatively small, not even relatively, like extremely small class sizes compared to any other university class that you would probably take. And that actually helps to build a relationship with your professors, and it helps you to actually get a better understanding of what you're actually studying, rather than just sitting at the back of a class and listening to a lecture. And something that I feel personally, for me, I feel at Huron, they just don't value you getting good marks or what you're going to do with your degree, but they actually value you for a person that you are. So you're just not like a student to them. They really care about you and want to see you do well and enjoy the program at the same time. So it's just not constant academic pressure to do well. They really want you to enjoy the whole process. So that was why I chose Huron. And with my class choices, yes, I am happy. There are some times when I'm like, oops, like I didn't expect this to come up in this course. But at the end of it, when I look back at it, I'm like, okay, wow, like I've learned a lot that I wouldn't have otherwise learned if I didn't take a course like that. And so yeah, overall, I am happy with my choice of my program, my university, and all my courses.
Okay, that's nice. Karina, do you have some thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I would say I'm really happy with my choice. Just overall university, my majors, Huron has been very, very supportive in many ways in what I want to do. And yeah, I'm really glad that I chose Huron and I chose the psychology program. Yeah, I don't really have much to add on to that. I'm just happy with what I've chosen.
That's good. I mean, as you're graduating, I'm glad that as you reflect back, that it was
Yeah, I'm happy with the courses I've taken. I think all of them has not only just like helped me so it's like there's that academic point, and then there's also that personal growth. And I feel like with the way that the courses are taught, the way that it's structured, it has helped me come out a little bit from being very more on the timid side into being someone who is a little more outspoken, who can actually express their ideas in class, which is what I'm really, really pleased about. So yeah.
Okay. Irvi, you have some comments on that? Or?
Yeah, I'm super happy. Unlike Malaika, I applied to one place. I put in a lot of work into looking into the kind of place that I wanted. I really wanted a place that would give me more sort of research experience, it would be more rigorous perhaps in sort of the kind of mentorship that it offers. So I really decided on Huron because of sort of things like Curl, because of the way the psychology program is set up, like we talked about, as in being a very research intensive process. So yeah, I'm super, super happy. I don't know if there's anything else I should say.
Yeah, I think that's, I think I think most of the students in the psych program are generally happy. I mean, and I'll because I'm a psychologist, I'll use some data actually to support that, which is to suggest that we actually lose very few students after once students come into the program. Most of them stay to graduation, and so we basically graduate more than 90% of the students who enter the psychology program, which I think that is a testament in some ways to the persistence of the students in the face of sort of a lot of stuff that we throw at you and expect from you. But I think it's also something about the way that the program is structured. We give you kind of the thing that I think you are expecting that you're likely to get. So I think in that sense, let's kind of get at some of these maybe more technical kinds of questions, perhaps, which are really around whether or not you think what kinds of required courses and whether you think the structure of the program actually kind of makes sense. I'm going to try and kind of lump together the math question, honor specialization kind of questions, as well as things like, did you need to have psychology in high school? I know some of you have taken psychology in high school, and then what it looks like to declare a major at Huron. So the general kind of sort of academic system that you guys are inside of in terms of earning your degree. So I'll sort of lump those all together. So let's talk a little bit about sort of what it looks like from first year. So when you came from high school, some of you would have had some psychology. I think somebody said that they had high school level psych. Did anyone not have high school level psych? And then what did that look like? Karina?
Yes, so I didn't have psychology. I did A-levels here in Thailand. I graduated with A-levels, and with A-levels, you only really have like four areas of studies, and then you reduce down to 3 in your A-levels. So I didn't really have that psychology background or anything, but I knew I just wanted to apply into psychology, which Huron accepted me, but I was doing Bachelor of Arts. So the difference there, if you're doing a Bachelor of Science, is where you have that sort of mathematical background as well. But yeah, I did. So I have that. And there's like a structure with the psychology program as well, which I think is really useful, where you do the compulsory first year psychology, and then second year you have the stats, which they recommend you to do both the second year and third year, which I think it's recommended, and it really does help, rather than if you're doing the third year in like the third year stats course, or like in fourth year, because you've really got that understanding of the numbers and what you are writing in your reports. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I went a little bit off into like the structure of the course.
Yeah,
but yeah, I did do psychology.
Let me widen that question out a little bit. Did you know anything? I mean, even for those of Irvi and like, I think you did take psychology in high school. And so even knowing a little bit about psychology coming into the program, which you don't actually need to know, did you find that that was helpful? Did you find that like the psych program, especially in first year, was quite different than what you were doing in high school? I think people often come into psych thinking it's one thing and then learn in first year that it's not, and kind of like, but where's the coach? And I thought I was going to be helping people and that kind of thing. So what are some thoughts around that, Irvi?
Yeah, so for those of you that are from India, I did the CBSE system, which means that I had sort of 2 years of psychology classes to take. I will say that they were, while they gave me a sort of taste of sort of general disciplinary research and what goes on in very, very broad strokes, I don't think I needed it. I think the first year was sort of, first year at Huron is perfect at giving you that sense. So yeah, in that sense, sort of high school psychology was very, very different from what we do at Huron. And I will also say that I didn't take math after grade 10 because I didn't have to. And you don't need that either. Because again, you go over the math, like Karina said, in the stats courses. And so yeah, I mean, it's nice if you can dip your toes into it, I guess, during high school, but it is definitely not necessary.
Okay, Malika? You took
Yeah,
IB
no,
Psych?
so even I had done psychology before. But like Irvi said, it's not at all like you require psychology, because when they start off in year one, they're obviously assuming that students are coming either with no background in psychology. And so they really do teach you the very basics of all the different fields in psychology. I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh, I learned this in high school, or oh, this comes back to me, but it's never like I've learned all of it, or like, I just don't need to take this course because I've already done it in high school. There's always something more, and it's a way more broad and in-depth course at university, and there's no requirement, like you don't need to have done psychology before. I did do math in high school as well, and then in my first year of university, I again had to take 1 credit of math. So that was the whole math situation for me.
Great. So let's think a little bit about kind of, and just looking at some of the things that are left, Karen, here in the chat. And let's think about, just trying to look at this right now. Let's talk a little bit about majors versus honor specialization versus arts versus science in psychology, which is actually a really common question that we get a lot. So Huron, of course, offers Bachelor of Arts in psychology. We have honors specialization program and major program, as well as minor and a dual program with business at Western. So let's actually talk a little bit. Karina, you're doing a double major, I think. How did you choose that actually? And how easy has that been? So lots of students actually choose to do double majors with psych. And so what does that look like? And how do you how do you balance your psych stuff with your other major as well?
Well, my other major is on main campus because it's Spanish. So I've also got to really manage it well, because you've got that restriction where you have to take 60% of your courses on your home campus, and then 40% can be on any other campus. So I actually do a lot of planning before actually applying to or signing up for classes and enrolling in classes. And I kind of plan out how my 4 years are gonna look like, giving some flexibility to it so I can see where I kind of want to go with my classes, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's really manageable though, doing a double majors, and I actually really, really enjoy, and I'm glad that I decided to do a double major. But yeah, you have to kind of take that full load with the 5 credits for each year. So that's what I did. I just did a lot of planning and yeah, just made sure that I was on top of it with each of my studies, with each of my classes. But it's super manageable for me. Yeah.
Okay. Urvi, you're actually doing honor specialization in psychology, a major in history, and a mini module of scholars electives. So you've got actually kind of a lot of things going on. How did you decide actually on the major in history with the honor specialization? That's a bit unusual actually to do a major and an honors, although it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the honor specialization was really the way to go. That's what I wanted for a while. The major in history just kind of came along. So there's a certain number of classes that you can take as electives, and I ended up taking a lot of history because I really enjoy studying it. The Huron history program is also lots of fun. So I was like, okay, I can make this into a major because I'm going to end up taking more history classes anyway. So it was just a question of sort of wanting to dive a little bit more into something other than psychology, and really just planning a little bit better, I guess, instead of taking a few random classes to take a little bit of more specific class. But I think the combination has really helped me. Like I said before, like my curl project is really drawing on sort of what I learned in psychology, obviously, but also some of the skills that I've developed in history in terms of doing archival research and stuff. So it's a really, probably a bit unusual, but a really interesting complement to the psychology piece.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing actually really interesting stuff in history of psychology for your history major. So that's a really interesting way of sort of thinking about how the methods in psychology have evolved over the last 150 years. Psychology being a fairly young discipline. Actually, before we end, I'm just looking at the time right now. It's 9:25 here in Ontario, London time. And I'm just going to quickly actually deal with the two questions that were kind of remain that are related to math in psychology and the difference between BA and BSc. And so math course is only required. So for those of you who are still wondering, and this has come up a couple different times in the chat, math is really only required in the psychology program if you're pursuing the honors specialization module in psychology. So, and it is required at the first year level. So if you're thinking about honor specialization in psych, you do need university level math in your first year in order to be admitted into the psychology program in your second year. What that means is that you do have to have high school level math that allows you to take a university level math in the first year. So that's kind of sort of the answer to that. So math is required even in a BA program in psychology at Huron. More math actually may be required if you're doing a BSc, for example, but certainly at Huron the math is required, but only for the honor specialization. So if you're a little bit iffy on the math, or if you're thinking you just want to avoid math entirely, you can get away with it actually by doing a major program of study in your degree. You do have to do a little bit of not math, I guess, meaning not math, meaning not capital M math, math credits, because there's going to be a little bit of math required in statistics. So you can't get away from doing some mathematical stuff in the course of your degree, although you can get away with not doing a full out actual math, calculus, algebra kind of course if you wish, by simply doing the major and not doing the honor specialization. So I think that kind of answers those two questions. I'm actually just going to maybe end the question and today's sort of Q&A piece by kind of asking maybe if there are any last thoughts actually from our panelists today. So about how you make the choice and what makes the choice Huron. Maybe I'll sort of end it there. That's a hard question, probably a bit awkward. What do you guys think?
I feel like something that could be really helpful for you guys when you're looking into this is reach out to current Huron students. Like we had a seminar today. There are a lot of Huron students who are happy to connect with incoming students and really talk about our experience, because at the end of the day, like even if there's great academics, you want to have a university which is the right fit for you. And so really get to know the university. And for that, I just feel like reach out to students, professors, faculty, anyone who you want to know or who you want to talk to and get to know more about the college. That's probably my advice to incoming students.
Yeah, good. Any other thoughts? Yeah, actually, we have a really great student body at Huron. These are just 3 of the sort of super psych students who are sort of happy to chat with people. We never at a loss actually for students to chat about the program when we have open houses or these types of events. So that's actually one of the nice things, certainly being the chair of psychology. And I'm never at a loss when I need to call on students to participate in programmatic kinds of events. So it's a really great student body. It's really tight. Everybody knows everybody. And so I think maybe I'll kind of wrap things up there. And I want to thank all the people who've been attending. And maybe I'll just throw it back to Taylor sort of as we end.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sang, and thanks to all our prospective students for attending today. It's really great to have you. And thanks to Karina, Irvi, and Malaika for all your thoughts and sharing your experiences. So everyone have a great day, and thanks to all for joining us.
Thank you.